put on stuff for GERD and all kind, and that's not it. It could be the vagus nerve. I'm just saying, always get your vagus nerve checked if you're like that. But it could also be emotionally swallowing your words. So let's say I'm going to use one of my old patients that I haven't seen in a long time as an example. She had a daughter who drove her nuts. And her daughter would come visit her for weeks on end and just drive her absolutely batty. And then she would start burping. Burp, 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 burp. And she's like, I know it's stress. I know it's stress. And I'm like, well, have you told her what you think? No. Well, when she says these things that irritate you, what do you say? Oh, I don't say anything. I just swallow and go to my room. Like, oh, you're swallowing your words? You're swallowing air all the time? You're keeping yourself from speaking by swallowing it down. I said, you need to go home and you need to write a big, long letter to your daughter. And you need to tell her everything that frustrates you. She's like, oh, I couldn't do that. That would just start trouble. I said, I didn't say mail it.
Right. You have to get it out.
But you got to get that out.
Labradorite would help, too. Help her get it out.
Yeah, that
Reiki
crystal
would, too.
That's a good one. So, yeah, because throat chakras will close up, and it'll actually choke a person.
And
like,
in
it
women,
can physically choke you.
And in women, that one is a big one.
Oh, yeah,
it's
because a lot of women don't feel like they have a voice.
Right.
So.
Well, then it's stored in your root chakra.
Absolutely it is. So all of these things can be helped. But you got to realize, people, you're doing it to yourself. And that's what people don't get. They think it's some outside disease attacking them. But it isn't. It's you. You're just doing it, and you just don't realize you're doing it. So much of the time when I get people better, it's because I discover what they're doing wrong. And then I teach them or train them how to do it right. And once they learn how to do it right, miraculously, they get better and their pain goes away and they start to heal. And it's just like, well, you don't even realize you're doing this.
Right.
You don't even know you're doing it. I had a lady yesterday standing up and sitting down. She had knee surgery. Her other hip was hurting. Not her knee surgery leg, but her other hip. It's been about 2 months since her knee surgery. I said, it's not your knee, right? And she's like, no, my knee is good. So I watched her sit down and stand up. And the whole time she was doing it, she was favoring. She was putting all her weight on the other hip, almost actually lifting her leg up on that side, shifting her weight and tilting her body. So when she sat, all the weight was on the right. And when she stood up, all the weight was on the right. And I simply showed it to her. I said, look what you're doing. You are still compensating and guarding that knee, even though the knee's good. And now you've gotten your right side all monkeyed up because it's taken the brunt of all your weight. I said, you can still shift your weight to the right, but you don't have to lean to the right. You can stay even, shift a little more weight to the right still as you're transitioning and healing, but still come up straight and not tilt when you come up. Her pain was gone within minutes of just showing her how to do it right. Like I had her do it like 5 times, and then I said, okay, stand up and walk. Pain was gone. Pain was gone. I didn't even have to adjust her. I did anyway, because everybody needs their adjustment. But for that particular pain, she needed to know what she was doing wrong.
Right.
That's all. And I do that for everybody.
And we all need to know what we're doing wrong.
Yeah. I'm not always the best person to point it out, depending on what it is. But if it's a body thing, I'm your girl. I'm your girl.
And if it's a hair thing, Holly's your girl.
That's true. And if it's an oil thing, Michelle's your girl.
And if it's a BS thing, I'm your man.
Beautiful. We all need one of those.
And if it's a self-sabotaging thing, I'm your girl.
Yes. Wait a minute. That's not nice. Oh, like you can train them out of it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, I thought you were referring to yourself. I said, no.
No.
You've done so much inner work.
Oh,
I've done so much inner work. We are
it's
truly
nice. It's
different
fun
people.
watching each other evolve.
It is.
It is.
It is. And this helps.
It does.
Like this, what we're doing for all of you is actually helping us.
And
always.
every conversation we ever have helps.
Yeah. And I learn so much every time I talk to you.
And I wish everybody had a friend like that.
Aw, me too. I want that
and
for
Patrick,
people.
too.
I want people to have friends like that. Patrick's awesome. Just saying. Okay. Now I'm going to segue to mine because mine was not a big topic. So I have 5 minutes.
Don't worry about it. We're good. We're at an hour now, but you know what? I don't think it really matters. I don't think there's anything scheduled after us.
Well, we have a lot of wives' tales that people, speaking of them doing the wrong thing for themselves. Okay, so that's my segue from what we just talked about till here. People don't even realize they're doing the wrong thing for their body. So, for example, like I just said, people swallowing their words, putting that air down into their throat, it becomes a physical issue, and then they're constantly burping that air because that's a physical thing that happened because of something emotional or something that they were doing. So one of the big things that people always say to me, they always come in and they're like, man, I've been hurting and it's getting nothing but worse, and I've been using heat every night, and I can't understand why it's getting worse.
Heat.
Okay. What's the definition of insanity?
Doing the same thing and expecting different results.
Yeah. If heat doesn't work, don't keep using it. If it's getting worse, don't keep using it. Heat is really only to relax muscle. Heat is no good in any other capacity other than to relax a muscle. What heat does to a body that's been injured is it increases inflammation. It causes you to swell on the inside. So to put heat on an injured part makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. So we don't do that. We put ice on an injured part. If it is a new acute problem, you put ice on it, 15 minutes at a time, couple hours off in between. Then as things start to heal and get better, if you have tight muscles that are associated with that on a later note, like a couple weeks into the progress, then if you want to use heat, very sporadically you can use heat. But you'd never want to use heat on an injured part. Okay? Same thing with stretching. Oh my gosh, with the stretching. Stretching!
She's emphatic on this.
I'm an anti-stretcher. Okay, so what do I mean by that? Yes, stretching is good to a certain
because you
point.
have to stay flexible.
Yes, but people overdo it. Okay, so let's talk about normal range of a joint. Okay, I've got my hands up, making a V formation with my arms for all of you on the radio. This is normal range for a joint. This is how much it can move. Like range-wise, this is how much it safely can move. This is how much it can really move. But this is the safe range. This is the, okay, I can still move this far, but it's out of normal range. This is where people are usually stretching. This is normal range. We want to stretch to normal range, but if we go past normal range, you're stretching parts that shouldn't be stretched, called ligaments. And ligaments are our stability. Ligaments are the things that hold us together. So you take a ligament and you stretch it out in this realm, way past the point of normal range of motion, you are going to have nothing but trouble. Nothing but trouble. Okay? So, stretching. So, people get injured, and let's say, for example, they get a kink in their neck. So, their neck is all kinked on the left. So, what do they want to do? They want to stretch to the right. They're like, oh, I just want to stretch it. If I could just stretch this and make it release, it'll feel so much better. Well, if you take a muscle that is already contracted up and you pull at it at both ends, what do you think it's going to do?
Oh, it's going to tear.
It's going to either tear, which that can happen. That's how rotator cuffs tear.
Or overextend.
Or it's going to just cramp up even harder because it's going to fight you. So then what I tell them is this. If you are hurting on the left side, you definitely don't want to stretch to the right. You want to lean to the left. Because if you lean to the left, you've shortened that muscle, which gives it the opportunity to relax. So if it goes this way, it's going to cramp up harder. But if it goes this way, it will relax eventually. So you basically shorten the muscle, not try to lengthen it. You shorten the muscle, and it just goes, oh, thank you. Thank you so much. But if you stretch at it, it's just going to get more and more PO'd. That's a technical term.
That's our friend Beth.
Is that Beth? I can't see very far.
Yes.
Hi, Beth. Okay. So anyways, that is the thing about stretching. That's why I get so irritated. I love my yoga people, but my yoga people, they try so hard to get their ligaments loose. And I'm going to tell you the difference between muscles and ligaments. Muscles move your bones. Ligaments,
Keep them in place.
Hold them in place, yes. When I hit that wall, when I open my arm up and straighten my elbow and it stops, that's a ligament. So I don't want that ligament to be all unstable and wobbly, because if that happens, my brain thinks, holy crap, every time she straightens her arm, that elbow's going to come flying out of place. So we're going to lock down, guys. So it basically sends signals to the muscles to do the job of the ligaments, and you end up tight. You're stiff and tight. So then I get people coming in, they're like, man, I'm stiff and tight all over. I'm like, well, that's because you're too loose. People die with that. They're like, what are you talking about? You're crazy. I'm like, no, I'm not. Well,
maybe
I'm
a little
crazy.
bit. Yeah.
But really, that's what it is. It's you're tight because you're loose, and it's trying to compensate. The muscles are trying to compensate for the ligaments. So I have nothing against yoga, but learn how to minimize stretching out of normal range. You can only stretch within normal anatomical range safely. If you start stretching out of normal anatomical range, you're just asking for trouble. You're just asking for trouble. Everything is going to get mad, irritated, terrible. So, yeah, stretching. And, I get it. You want to stretch your hamstrings a little before you start running? Absolutely. Beautiful. But if you're injured, if you have an injured hamstring, the more you stretch it, the more it's going to get aggravated, So it's opposite. I'm always opposite, girl. Always.
Very good. That was good information.
Yeah, so wives' tale. So heat,
right.
Stretching, bleh.
And a good way to remember that is in the summertime, things swell, and in the wintertime, things shrink.
Ooh, that is a good one. Because we want that tissue to shrink down so that it's not so irritated and inflamed. I mean, inflammation is good to a certain extent because that's what sends our good for me's. All our proteoglycans and our aminoglycans get sent down to the area that's inflamed, which is our healers and our stuff, and our brain knows what to send to make it mend, and that's all good. But we don't want to keep it inflaming, because by doing that, you're actually keeping a negative feedback loop. So if it inflames more, then your brain sends more of that stuff. Then it inflames more, then your brain sends more of that stuff. And then that's why people get to the point where they have to have an artificial cutoff to block that, like steroids. Steroids, cortisone, all of that is an artificial anti-inflammatory that will just artificially take away all your swelling. So it calms it down pharmaceutically so that your body can actually heal. Okay.
Very
I'm
good.
sorry. I meant to tell you. Beth had popped up on here. She asked if 115 was good. So but we were in the middle of the show, and I just figured she'd wait till you hollered.
That's
back,
okay.
So. All right. So heat versus cold. Fresh air. Fresh air is great for you. Oh my gosh, everybody cooped up in the middle of winter with their dust and their molds and keep their windows closed. On these nice days, we have had beautiful days this week. On these nice days, open your window. Let the house air out. Let things get in. Get out and walk. Go out, even if you're just walking out on your front porch and taking a few deep breaths of fresh air. Get that fresh, clean air in you.
Right, that feels good.
Important. One I love, injuries. Walk it off.
My dad, I can still hear my dad saying that.
Get up. You're fine. Walk it off. No, I'm injured. I'm injured. No, just work through it. No, I'm injured. All right. Very big distinction. Popping a blister. I get that question all the time. Should I pop my blister? No. Don't pop your blister.
Some people are poppers. That drives me crazy.
Patrick's a popper. I'm an anti-popper because you don't want to introduce bacteria where there's a closed wound. If there's a closed wound, don't open it. It's going to get infected, and your body put that stuff there. Yes, it's irritating, but your body sends that stuff there as a cushion, right? Because if you get it on the back of your heel because of new shoes, why is that there? Why does your brain decide to put that there? Because it's a cushion. It's a barrier. It's a protector. Your phone died. So that's what